So we are live again. After a few weeks that we didn't do any live, we are live and with an upgrade. Now we are transmitting in YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram at the same time. For all of you at home, welcome to our show, to our talk, chat. And if you have any questions, please just send us on our way. We will be more than glad to discuss whatever points you would like to ask about our live today. We will basically discuss a little bit about an amazing and very useful research that Annabel, that it's one of our guests today, did, and we will bring that information and discuss a little bit about that with you guys and among us here. First, let me introduce both of them to you. So we have Gus Oliveira, our CEO here of the DeRose Meditation. Nice to see you again, Gus.
Nice to see you too, Rick.
Awesome. Thank you to be here with us discussing this wonderful subject. And the other guest is Annabel Sibalis. She is actually a doctor and a researcher from Ryerson University, and she did the research on our work, actually. And that research was published, and the first part of it, and that's what we will be talking about today. Welcome, Annabel. It's nice to have you among us again. It's a second conversation about this research you did. Thank you to all of that. And
of course, thanks for having me, Rick.
Of course, awesome. And I would like first to ask you, what motivated you to do this research? What was the most impactful thing that you maybe this is interesting, let's research this?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of the research that I do focuses on mental health in children and youth, and exploring how different interventions can support them with regard to their emotions and behavior. And as part of that, I have an extensive background researching meditation-based programs and how they can be used to promote wellness in children, but also in people of all ages. So in the very beginning of 2020, my research supervisor and I were hired by DeRose Meditation to conduct a study that investigated how their program worked. And this was a project that was jointly funded by DeRose Meditation, as well as by MyTax, which is a Canadian research organization that connects research trainees with institutions and companies that need research expertise. And DeRose stated their kind of research goal of wanting to show in a scientific or evidence-informed way how the program works and what are the key components that produce change in the program, and how to show that change in a scientific way with scientific data. So together we devised kind of the first step of that process, and that is, or was, to use a variety of research methods to articulate what's called a theory of change model. And that's a theoretical model that highlights how and why change occurs for students in the program. And then moving forward, that information can be used in a variety of ways. For instance, it can show us what changes we expect to see as a student moves through a program, so that maybe a future research study knows to focus on measuring specific changes, that sort of thing.
Awesome. And I would like to have your input also, Gus. What was the trigger to do this research? What deployed the need, and what was the vision behind it? What was the decision and the intention with it?
Yeah, sure. We started this project of DeRose Meditation in 2019. And throughout that year, we realized the importance of having a scientific study, just like Annabel said, about our approach, our method, how it works, the theory of change, because many people want to know, right? They just don't want to believe it
Yeah.
works. They want to understand how it works through the lens of science, through the lens of a scientific approach. So considering that, and like many companies were asking us that, so we realized we needed to proceed with a study like that. So we thought that naturally, of course, we were in the United States. So we thought, okay, United States, it's a possible place to look for universities. But we were in contact with a consultant from Canada, and he was explaining us all the potential of research, of innovation that Canada ecosystem could provide us, and it was developing throughout the years and even more lately. So we went to Canada in September 2019. We really loved what we saw there. So we opened like a branch in Canada, and we considered having there our research facility, you know. So then we knew MyTex, like Annabel said, and we realized it was a very good, cost-effective way of researching our method. And then MyTex put us in contact with Annabel and her supervisor through this program, and it was a great match. And well, then the
Here
rest
we are.
is history.
Amazing, amazing. Annabelle, you mentioned the theory of change. For our audience, could you explain just briefly, not just to understand the process behind it?
Sure, of creating it or what the model is.
What the
both.
model is for, or a little bit of both, yeah.
Sure. So a theory of change model is something that's used in program development and evaluation research. And it's kind of like a description of the program. So it highlights how change occurs and why change occurs and what changes you might expect to see. The model is available, I know now, on the DeRose Meditation website. So it's actually great to go see it, and you can see all the different components that it has. For instance, it talks about some of the key drivers of change. It talks about some of the outcomes that we might expect to see for a student going through the program, both short-term and kind of longer-term outcomes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And in that theory, you just mentioned there are some key factors, some important aspects of it, of the theory of change. How could you explain like the importance of that in the process of change within in a methodology?
So you'll see in the model, I discussed what are called mechanisms of change. So those are features of the DeRose Meditation program that are the key drivers of change or pieces that actively contribute to students achieving outcomes like self-described improved mental and physical wellness or self-reported improvements in productivity or focus. And so I had outlined 6 different mechanisms of change for the program. Let's see, we had breathing techniques, meditation, the physical techniques, the concepts taught in the mindfulness design workshops, mentally and physically carving out regular time to devote to learning, and inclusion in a positive and supportive community atmosphere. And it's important to note, I think, that all the information that's presented in this model and that I gleaned from this study came from doing interviews with and conducting surveys with the founders of DeRose Meditation and many different instructors in the program and students who've been with the program, some of them only for a few months and some of them for more than 10 years. So this is, all based on the own words and opinions of the DeRose community and its members. And so what I did to develop the model was listen to everything that they had to say and then analyze the responses and draw out common themes that they expressed in their communications, and then arrange those into an information flow that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And you mentioned there a part that was about the community and being able to be exposed to a positive community. Could you explain a little bit, or what was your understanding in terms of influence of that positive community in the learning and in the changing process of an individual?
Mm-hmm. So inclusion in a positive and supportive community was one of, if not the most common topics that came out in the research that I did. So in nearly every interview and survey, both students and instructors mentioned that the DeRose Meditation community was really important to them. It was a really enjoyable facet of the program, but also they felt that it contributed somehow to them being able to make positive changes in their life and in their health. And it's interesting because this topic often comes out in studies where we look at the impact of a group-based program or a group-based intervention. And it goes by different names. Sometimes in research, we call it group cohesion or social support a little more broadly. But it's that feeling of being on the same team, or all being equals in a community of learners, feeling safe and welcome in a group, all having common interests and common goals. So those are factors that we know can really help a program with its effectiveness.
Awesome, great. And Gus, in terms of the way we develop that community, or not develop, but because now we are going on online, we are mostly online. What me, for example, imagining that I don't know anything, how do I can expect this to be part of this community? How does the process, and we preserve that process in an online, more kind of not in-person process?
Got it. Well, that's something that interestingly occurred naturally. First of all, because all of our teachers, they have been trained for many years. We have many teachers that they have like 10 years of background, some 15 years, some 5 years. So it's not just people that, like last month, they started to give classes. So they have a very good expertise and a very good know-how and experience. So they were trained for interacting and creating this atmosphere of sharing and a supportive atmosphere since day one, when they started their training course. So that's something that brings this natural approach for creating this community online. Secondly, is that the classes are interactive, right? So by interactive, the instructor is always stimulating and collecting feedback from the students. And sometimes they also have a pre-class conversation and a post-class conversation with the students. And something that was very interesting is that when we implemented the mindfulness design program that are based on active learning workshops, and by active learning workshops, this means that you don't have like a lecturer just talking and talking and talking and talking like a lecture. So it's a extremely interactive workshop. So the teacher is kind of a moderator of a talk, of a topic. So he stimulates the sharing of knowledge, the sharing of experiences, and the interchange of ideas about, for example, stress tolerance, emotional intelligence, intentional team working, focus, sustainable performance. So, how do you achieve peak performance but in a sustainable way? A creative and a intuitive mind. So, these are some of the topics that we work on this. So, this creates an amazing supportive atmosphere of interchange of ideas online, a safe environment where you have the moderator, but and people that are participating there from many companies, right? So they are sharing what they are experiencing. So during the pandemic, during the lockdowns and so on, people were experiencing new things that never in modern history we have experienced. So it was everything new for everybody, right? And now we are experiencing again something new for everybody, the post-pandemic world, right? That we have a very fast and very complex situation that we're living in. So this exchange creates new solutions, new ideas, new mindsets, new insights for the participants. And per what I remember, and Annabel can explain better, but per what I can remember from their research, they said that they see this happening all the time, and this is kind of incorporated in what we do. So they perceive the community from most of our touching points, right? I don't know if Annabelle can comment a little bit on this too.
Yeah, are you talking about, Gus, just how people felt part of the community, or?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of that, relates. It kind of looked different for different students, and I heard this in different ways. For some people, it was that they felt, that there was a community that they shared common goals with, and that supported them in those goals. Or for other people, it felt, like a group of people that they really trusted and they felt cared for. So it's interesting the different benefits that it can give to different people. But I recall that being part of some of the things that came up, and it all fits under the umbrella, I'd say, of like a supportive community.
You mean the live interaction, right? And the sense of accountability.
Yeah, that's part of it too. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. And when you look backwards for those interviews and the process, what I would say, what surprised you the most? What was the thing that moment, like, I never thought about it. This is very interesting, or something that surprises you in the process.
That's a great question. Something that I noticed when conducting this study was how unanimously positive and supportive the students and the instructors were when speaking about the program. Nearly every person I interviewed or surveyed reported that the program had made a very large positive impact on their life. And it's relevant to note that for this research, participation was voluntary. Not every student had to participate, not every instructor. So it was only those that wanted to participate that did. And that inherently means that I likely ended up talking to people who had the strongest opinions about the program and who were very invested in it. in research, we might say that there's an element of selection bias. And that's okay. That happens often in research. It's just something we have to note as kind of a limitation. But even with that in mind, the responses I received were extremely positive. And that's sometimes rare in evaluation research. So it surprised me, and it also made the project really enjoyable to work on, because it was like being part of that community, and experiencing some of that for myself.
Wonderful, wonderful. When you mentioned that the impact that the students and the instructors even comment with you, what were the most common that were reported? Like focus, concentration. What was it?
So I sort of split these up into what I called intermediate outcomes and ultimate outcomes. So the intermediate ones might be things that show up a little sooner and that are, little building blocks almost. And then some of those can combine together to produce some of the bigger, more ultimate outcomes. So some of the things that people reported being the sort of early changes that arise for them were increased self-awareness. And that looks like a lot of different things. It can be being more aware of their emotions, or their bodily responses, or how your mind or your body reacts to challenge or stress. It can even be, awareness of your goals and values as a person. Another kind of early outcome was feeling an increased sense of resilience and emotional stability. So having, helping to develop a more positive outlook or more persistence, and a sense kind of more fortitude, mentally and emotionally. Focus was a big one. Positive physical changes, so things like better balance or better sleep. And I believe the last one was improved feelings of self-control. So of your emotions, or feeling in control of your life. And then a little later, as you stick with the program, what people mentioned was all of those kind of early changes helped contribute to more broad changes in their life. And some of those things that people mentioned were improved self-confidence, improved well-being in general, both mentally and physically, improvements in their social relationships and maybe their relationship with their intimate partner, so their husband or wife or their partner, and also career improvements or productivity improvements.
Wonderful, wonderful. Gus, in terms of the individual, the development, imagine that I start, how many stages would you say that you can divide the evolution of the individual?
Sorry, I wasn't on mute.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah. The process of progress and evolution in our methodology is a never-ending process, right? But so let me explain in terms of timing. With one class, the person will definitely see and feel something, right? Of course, the person will not be changed, but the person will feel different for better with one class. But after 1-2 months, generally, per what we see throughout the years, people start feeling not a definite, but a powerful change in how they feel, in their mental well-being, in the quality of their sleep, the level of their vitality, levels of energy, levels of focus. They can see a noticeable evolution on that. And with many months or many years, then people start seeing sustainable change, right? Because you may have a temporary change that you need to keep going, like, for example, a pill for a headache, right? If you stop taking the pills for headache, the headache will come back, right? So this short periods, it's like that. But if you keep going and you keep dedicating yourself in this personal growth, with time, let's take again the example of the headache. You're going to change the roots of the lifestyle that are creating the headache in the first moment, right? So you will produce a more sustainable change that will last and not disappear if you stop practicing, right? So that's how we can see. So an immediate effect that you can feel in one class, a few weeks, few months, you feel a lot of difference, a lot of impact. You start feeling very well. And after a lot of months or years, then you have this more lasting effect, lasting change in yourself.
The change is it's basically permanent after a while, right?
Yeah, of course, that
Mhm.
if you in the future come back to the previous lifestyle,
Oh yeah.
it will come back eventually.
Yeah.
But if you keep that, what you learn, what you incorporate in your life, then that can be a lasting effect.
Awesome. Cool. And is there anything else you would like to mention or to to discuss that we didn't touch so far that stand out during the process that I didn't ask and it's important, you feel that it's important to mention, Annabelle?
Um, I think it's really helpful, or it could be helpful for students to kind of look at the model and pick out, what they find or what they feel are the helpful pieces to them in the
Mm-hmm.
program and consider how those can help contribute to some of the positive changes that they see or that they want to see in their life. Um, because I think it's a good opportunity to reflect on, where you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
um, how your goals can align with what's actually happening in your life, and some of the steps to get there. So, um, I always think it's great kind of turning to the research and seeing how that can apply for you. So, plus it's just interesting to read about. So I'd recommend giving it a look.
Awesome. And you, Gus?
Um, I'm just going to conclude. Can I just conclude with something here?
Yeah,
So,
of course, of course.
okay. So I don't repeat what Annabelle said or something very similar. So I strongly recommend for people that are, should I start? Should I try it? Yeah, you should try it right now. So the
Actually, we
earlier,
have the trial period that they can use.
yeah, you have like a
Mhm.
14-day trial period, no credit card, no commitment, only the commitment with yourself, right? And and the day you start and you commit yourself for this personal growth journey, you will start thinking, why didn't I start before? That's going to be the question that you're going to have in your mind, and I can assure you that because I have heard that so many times
Mhm.
throughout almost 20 years. People after start and they engage and they start, attending more and more and more frequently, they say, I should have known this before, right? I
Mhm.
could have avoided or reduced a lot the stress that I go through. I could have damaged a lot less many of my relationships at work and personal relationships, and I could have achieved more with more pleasure and satisfaction because you can achieve a lot of things, but the what is more important is how you achieve, not necessarily what you achieve. It's how you go through the journey of life, and not where you're heading or what you get. So how you do things matters the most. How you manage relationships matter the most. How you manage your work, how you manage your happiness in the end of the game, right? In the end of the day, that's what matters the most. We will do mistakes for sure. We do, like teachers. Yeah, sure, we do. But how you manage them later after you do the mistakes, that's what matters the most, right? That's what makes us see and perceive that we're developing ourselves somehow, and this brings more satisfaction, fulfillment, and enthusiasm to face whatever challenges happens in our lives. So that was my final, let's say, message here.
Awesome, thank you. And just one last question for both of you before we close it. And next steps for this study, are there next steps already prepared or programmed to develop it further?
Yes, I can take this question, because I know that Annabel, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, Annabel? I know that Annabel is not really researching right now unless something changed. But yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, originally our partnership was forged in, as we mentioned, through MyTax, which is a program, that's student based. I completed my degree. I'm not a student, so I'm happy supporting future steps, but I've gone the independent research route, and I have a hospital position that I devote most of my time to now.
Okay, good clarification. So I don't say silly things here. So the next step of our stage, let's say, of our research, we would like to conduct a measurements, of physiological key indicators that can show the progress, the evolution of a practitioner in terms of stress tolerance, in terms of resilience, adaptability, focus, and emotional intelligence, whatever we can measure, So whatever we can measure, and we can show in a tangible way the results, the effects, according to how much time people dedicate in our method, in our approach. So that would be the next stage of the work.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. For you that are at home assisting, watching to this conversation, if you guys are curious and you want to try, we have a 14-day trial period that you can subscribe on our website and social medias. You find it easily. You just need to go there, create your own profile, your name and contacts. It's enough. And then after the 14 days, we decide together or by yourself, you decide if you want to continue or if it's enough for you. But I would like to see you, and I guess Gustavo, Gus, also would like to see you in our sessions and in our classes, enjoying it and evolving with it. Thank you, Annabel, for your time to be with us once again. It's a pleasure to do a conversation with you and to see you again. And to you too, Gus. A long time no see, since the morning, basically. So nice to see you again. And thank you to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annabel. Thank you, Rick. See you guys next time.
See you next time. See you guys at home.
Bye-bye.
Subscribe. See you in class.